everyone. This is Jamarl Thomas. I am your host for the Progressive Soapbox. I'm coming to you recorded because I want to get a few videos in, and I have like a list of videos that I need to get done, and I don't have a huge amount of time to do it in, so I want to get these done in like 10-minute increments. First, before I start, I want to give a shout out to Mrs. Thomas. She did an amazing job holding it down for the Notre Dame fire when I wasn't able to be here at the station. She did an amazing job, and people have commended her on that status, saying, give her a channel, give her a channel. I may just do that. On the second point, like I said, there were several stories that needed to be discussed on the home front. Of those, I think the most important and the most disconcerting is the one concerning Donald Trump attacking Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar, as you know, is a Muslim member of Congress, and she has gotten right much attention because she has said things that has gone or just chafed the political class, meaning pointing out that lobbies are buys influence through cash, but in this case, her being labeled anti-Semitic because she kind of makes the point that yes, AIPAC, the Israeli lobby, also does the same thing as every other lobby and uses cash for influence peddling. But nevertheless, I mentioned that for a reason. I think that's weakened her position, meaning allowed, when Democrats condemned her and attacked her, it allowed somewhat of a weak link effect, where Republicans now have an attack point, and they have their own members attacking her, meaning it makes her somewhat of a weaker status and somewhat of a chess political sense. But putting that part to the side for the moment, Donald Trump sends out an inflammatory tweet showing Ilhan with the words, "We will never forget." And it's a clip of a small clip of something she said, meaning it removes the context of what she was saying and acts as if she's trivializing 9/11. And Donald Trump interlaces this with the towers being hit. You can imagine this is extraordinarily problematic. We have a country of, 300 and some odd million. Any small percentage of that, with not to mention a country awash in guns, and any small percentage may not necessarily be wrapped tight and may take chances. Donald Trump doesn't necessarily like to own the political violence that takes place in other countries. He doesn't even like to own the political violence that takes place in this country, but if anything happens to her, he is directly responsible. He is inflaming a situation that doesn't need to be inflamed and doing so in a massively disingenuous way. Right-wing media takes this and, of course, screams. New York Post. I'm going to show you the clip of what she said, and I'm going to show you how they clipped it. But beyond that, I want to get to a larger point about Democrats. First, let me show you what she said. Let me show you what she said. And then I'm going to show you where they clipped the video.
With the discomfort of being a second-class citizen. And frankly, I'm tired of it. And every single Muslim in this country should be tired of it. CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us were starting to lose access to our civil liberties.
They clipped her at some people did something and then screamed, oh, she's trivializing 9/11, missing the point that her argument here was about Islamophobia, an experience of living in America as a Muslim under what, honestly, elements of this country that are grossly Islamophobic. You can imagine that this was her experience. Her experience is perfectly valid and legit, and starting an organization that deals with this, just like organizations that are for women, or for blacks, or for gays, or for Hispanics, or for whatever other particular identity, this is just as valid. And Donald Trump clips this. And right-wing media goes with this idea that she's trivializing 9/11. Bernie Sanders comes out strong in support of Ilhan. So does Elizabeth Warren. And not just comes out strong in support of Ilhan, even in the debate on Fox News, the town hall, when they bring this issue up in this kind of divisive issue of trying to get him to split away from her in this way, he was very clear in support of her. Here's the thing. Elizabeth Warren and Tom Perez looked like they were being dragged to the trough. Tom Perez wouldn't even mention her name. Nancy Pelosi wouldn't even mention the name. And in fact, Nancy Pelosi looks like it was a veiled hit at Ilhan also. Does Democratic leadership believe in magical things? Understand what I'm asking this. Do they believe that you can eat hamburgers for years on end and not get some kind of degenerative disease? Do they believe in ice that's not cold or water that in some way that is not wet? Do they believe in impossible things? When the Democratic leadership brought in this new Congress, they hailed this multicultural aspect of the Congress. Look at how multicultural we are. Look how diverse we are. Look at all of our beautiful women. That lesbian, transsexual, hermaphrodite over there. That guy is missing a leg. That woman has some kind of illness that requires some kind of medical thing. We are so diverse. We hail our diversity. And you, Mr. President, are racist, sir. Fair enough. I understand the politics of it. You have a president that you can castigate as being racist and being somewhat of a bigot and misogynist. And so you want to go with this idea of look how diverse we are. My issue is not with the diversity. I love this idea of diversity. United we stand, after all. My issue is using diversity in lieu of the economics. And not just in lieu of it, as a way of pretending that the economics doesn't even exist. For the longest time, and I can see the problem. It's almost like a burglar that's done something for so long that they believe that they can just go on forever. They get so familiar with it. They get so comfortable with it. They think it can just go on forever. Or maybe they didn't have a choice. But for the longest time, the Democratic Party has been able to separate this thing of class from race in an exponential way. Well, what I mean is, the experience that people have of a particular identity, they've been able to separate that. And let's say not race, let's use identity. They've been able to separate that for decades. So this person can run as a Democrat of a particular identity, and people look at that person as if the identity somehow gives the inner experience of the individual. That because that person is wearing your husk, that they are something like you, and as such, should garner your vote. I would put to you that for the longest time, that the problem here is that the issue here is not one of race. It's not the husk. It's issues of class. This idea of class, what they give their attention to. That's what I would put to you. You've been discredited in this case. And I suspect that you went to where the energy was. You went to this thought of diversity. Look how diverse we are. We've been able to pull this off for the longest time. Maybe we can still pull this off again. But power is where power resides. And in the same way what the Tea Party was 2010, where the Republican Party was looking for some way to energize their base or energize the party itself in lieu of an attack against Barack Obama, or to stave off what they would consider to be whatever Obama was going to put out, the Obama doctrine, Obama policies. The Democratic Party also shifted to the left. That's where their energy was. That's where the environment is essentially set up the energy to be. You have the widest income equality gap. What did you think was going to take place? You thought the society just was going to stand pat, a status quo, while people got screwed over? No. The environment pushed people further to the left, or in some cases further to the right. I guess that's where the arguments are being had. But in this case, you decided to go where the energy was. So you held multiculturalism. You held diversity. But in this case, there are some people where their identity is inextricably linked to their politics. Meaning, not everybody that you could find to shove into the party, that was brought into the party, went with this notion that race and class, or identity and class, are separate. And some of the people who you brought in, particularly into this Congress, didn't think that way. Ilhan being one of those people. Look, there is no singular point of view. And As such, being that there is no singular point of view, you have various aspects of America, various slices of America. And as these people are coming into Congress, ideally they're bringing in these various slices of America. Black, white, gay, Hispanic, woman, Muslim, whatever. If you're going to hail multiculturalism, if you're going to hail identity, if you're going to prize this level of diversity, then you are indeed going to get diversity. If I bite into ice that it's cold, I make it a toothache. It's not that it's a bad thing. These people are giving you these various aspects and slices of America. And a party that hails and praises identity should support the identity. Fact of the matter is, you attacking her early on in this process has allowed her to become somewhat of a weak link. But understand, that's because of you. That's because of you guys have allowed that to take place. Not because she was a weak link in and of herself. She was giving you an honest perspective. And as I said earlier, she was the best thing, or one of the best things that has happened to the Democratic Party. Fact of the matter is, you're not attacking her in an odd way has allowed the conversation to take place in a way that would have never in any other way have taken place had you not have allowed these levels of attacks to be leveled on her by her members of her own party, no less. I mean, after all, they were going out, they were going to censure her, and it just so happens that the lefties of the party rebelled against the party. You are literally allowing the right wing to fracture your already fractured Democratic Party. To show you what I mean by this is Tom Perez responding to a question on
570
Ilhan. And one last point. These various aspects of culture and everything else, it makes all the sense in the world that if you bring somebody in who needs medical issues, that they may want Medicare for all. They're not wrong for that. It makes all the sense in the world. That's their perspective of the world. It makes all the sense in the world that if you bring someone in who may be Muslim, they may be skittish about our foreign policy with regards to Israel. And they may want to question why that foreign policy exists in the way that it does and the factors that allow some of that allegiance. Questioning that relationship is not insane at all. It makes all the sense in the world. It's a political thing. It has nothing to do with religious ties. It's a political issue. I guess I'm making a point that the various members of Congress that you bring in, if they're going to be culturally diverse, they're going to be different things that they want, different perspectives of the world. And all of those perspectives, insofar as they line up with the objective world, their objective world, because they come from different places, it's valid. Donald Trump attacking her in this way is not, and it should be beyond the political pale. He is inciting violence against her life, and he is doing so for political expedience. Even if you're a Trump supporter, I would hope that you look at this and think that this is way beyond the pale. This is the squeamishness with which they dealt with this issue, as opposed to backing her up full-throatedly.
571 days until the most important election of our lifetime. We have health care on the ballot. We've got good wages on the ballot. We've got our democracy is on the ballot. And what Donald Trump wants to do in the 571 days between now and the election is distract people. He doesn't want to talk about health care because he doesn't have a plan other than to take away people's health care. He doesn't want to talk about the issues that matter most in communities across this country. The distraction of 2018 was caravans because they didn't want to talk about health care. And what voters want to know, Chris, and this is what we're getting at the Democratic Party. What voters want to know going into this cycle.
The president dealt with it. We just debated. What is your take on what she said?
I wanted to go back because I wanted to make sure you heard the question. I want to make sure you heard the question. Let's hear it one more time.
The way the president dealt with it, we just debated. What is your take on what she said?
What is your take on what Ilhan Omar said? Ironically, in a conversation where Tom Perez is talking about distraction and that Donald Trump is using a distraction in this case, meaning this inflammatory comments on Ilhan, which Tom Perez is absolutely right. Donald Trump is using that as a distraction to pull away from these other issues because Donald Trump doesn't have a policy platform, at least not a good one. And so, yeah, immigration issues, Islamophobia, this is going to be a pretty disgusting campaign that he's going to run. You can see the contours of it. Socialists and Islamophobia and immigrants and etc. Yes. But ironically, in saying that Donald Trump is using a distraction, Tom Perez is using a distraction. It is the weirdest thing. Let's hear him finish. Bring it back to finish.
Because he is hoping that for the next 570 days, we talk about one or two members of Congress. He doesn't want us to talk about the fact that Democrats believe that health care is a right for all, and we're going to keep our promise and have your back, whereas he has a knife in your back.
Listen.
We are keeping our promises to make sure that this economy works for everyone and not just for a few at the top. And he has passed the most reckless tax cut in American history.
I hear you on the issues.
That's why he wants to distract.
I hear you on the issues. Nobody will ever give you more time or your candidates more time to discuss them than my show will. I promise you that, because it matters. However, so does 9/11. And having a member of your ranks who deals with it that way, some people did something, and I gave her the benefit of full context. Isn't that something that you should have a comment on as opposed to just seeing it as a distraction?
Well, Chris, everybody remembers where they were on 9/11. I remember exactly where I was. And I saw, we all lived this. It was the worst day of certainly our lifetimes. And one.
You want to know why Democrats lose? Right there. Right there. That's why they lose. That's why they lose. That is pathetic. That is pathetic. You have a member of your ranks. You guys have screamed to high heavens that identity is the greatest thing on the planet, and you've literally dissolved any notion of economics in order to deal with the issues of identity. I don't like that, but that's the way that your party has organized itself. Now you have a member of your party that is being attacked for something that is inextricably linked to her identity, meaning what she's saying about Islamophobia is the full context of what she was talking about. You knew what she was talking about. She wasn't being cavalier about it. She's more so talking about from her experience in this country and this issues of Islamophobia. Your party should have stood in ideological, you could say, solidarity with her, even if it's from the perspective that this is a member of our party and we're going to back her up. We've pushed issues of identity. We've hailed this level of diversity. Does the Democratic Party believe in magical things? Does it believe that you can get a diverse caucus without having a diversity of those issues and different perspectives in the way that those people see those issues? And is the party really going to attack somebody on these issues of identity or not support members for varying issues of identity? I mean, because that's literally what we're talking about. We're not talking about here of just something she said. We're talking about something that's linked to who she is. Her perspective is linked to who she is in this way. Are you really going to throw it to the wolves? Nancy Pelosi's response wasn't that much better, and I'll end it on this. My basic point is this. They should have backed her up, full stop. In that conversation with Cuomo, he should have pushed back on Cuomo. He shouldn't have accepted this perspective that somebody in their party, in this case, did something wrong. She has a perspective of this. She might have could have said it in a different way, but she has a perspective of this. And you back her up! You back her up! You are throwing her to the wolves in this way, whether you realize it or not. Your party not backing her up is creating a weak point that the Republican Party is going to use to attack not just now, but also in the coming election. And you guys agreeing with the other party that she's somehow anti-Semitic, playing into this disingenuous nonsense, and then being squeamish about protecting her on this, you guys are creating weak links within your party that are going to be attacked and assailed in the upcoming election. If for no other reason other than backing up a member of your party, you should have backed her up on both of these points and not allow right-wing disingenuous attacks to fracture elements of your party. Does the Democratic Party believe in magical things? I'll end that here. Thanks all.